أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا وسيد الأولين والآخرين القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتخبين المنتجبين المظلومين الذين تاب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أما بعد, my respected brothers and sisters, elders and scholars, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think I should add to that and our youth also in there on Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In the current climate which we are living in, wherever you turn to any form of media outlet, you will see that the religion of Islam is being depicted and misrepresented as a religion that tries to enforce its ideology on others, a religion that wishes to brainstorm and coerce individuals to following whatever it is that we are supposed to believe. And on the same token, we are painted with a different brush, but one that is a bit more brittle and a bit more harsh, and it paints us as extremists and terrorists, uncompassionate people who do not care, as if we have our hearts removed and all we bear towards society is nothing but an everlasting grudge and hatred. Whereas in the reality of it, you will not find a religion that is more compassionate and more kind and more caring than the religion of Islam, only if it were practiced the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended for it to be. If you look at all the scriptures of the other religions and the different flavors that are out there, and this is by no means an attempt to disregard anybody's teachings or way of life or their method of approaching the subject of faith. But if you look at every other religion that is out there, you will not find any religion that focuses on self-reform through others. And allow me to explain what that means with the salawat ala Muhammad. Most religions will tell you that you are supposed to sit and contemplate, and meditate, and it is about reforming and saving yourself that you can attain salvation or nirvana, whatever it may be. Come. That you must do something for you in order to perfect thyself. But the religion of Islam considers you as nothing, and that your salvation and your development and completion and your journey towards being a perfect soul is not about being self-centered, but it is about completely annihilating the self. The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would constantly say to his companion, "Mutu qabla an tamutu." Die before you die. And the people said, "Ya Rasulullah, what does it mean to die before we die?" He says, kill that ego, that self, that I must be before everyone, and always place others before yourself. That is why there is a terminology in the Islamic world, and when I say the Islamic world, I don't mean East or West, I mean the philosophy, the thought process, the linguistics that are associated with this noble religion. And that word is ghayur. And ghayur, you do not find the likes of it in any other society, except for a Muslim society. Ghayur is an Arabic word which is commonly understood in the Farsi-speaking world and also in the Urdu Jamaats and the Desi Indo-Pak community. If we could just kindly keep our children seated next to us, inshallah. I know it's very difficult, I've got nephews and nieces, and believe me, they don't listen to nobody. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala. Nobody used to leave to take their kids outside, keep them away with the noise, I'll put up with it. Ghayur or ghira. I think in Urdu, if somebody has no self-respect or no care for others, you say baghirat, which means without ghira. Yes? So do I stand correct on this? We have something similar. The word ghayur means ghayr, to place others before thyself. This concept of Islam of placing others before yourself is a notion that became so intrinsic to our community that anybody who did not place others before themselves was considered to be baghirat. They are someone who has no shame. They are someone who has no respect. They are someone who is not dignified, because they are self-centered and all they care about is themselves and not the other. And this is how Islam came to shape, or rather reshape and reform the world from all these. I mean, if you really look at the Indo-Pak world, people may consider it to be, generally when we are taught our history in schools, we're only taught about the division between Pakistan and India and the bloody, feud that came before. When we are told about India or Pakistan, then first thing we're told is about the poverty levels that are there, about the divide between the rich and the poor, and somehow we are told that we should accept the status quo, that we are a backward people. And I say we because it's a Muslim nation, so therefore it is a reflection of myself also. But we are told to think of ourselves as some kind of backward people, as uncultured people, as uncivilized people, that whenever our parents tell us to do something, oh, Khuda, it's arranged marriage. Oh, they're going to do this. Oh, no, they're so backwards, they're uncultured, uncivilized. But the reality of it is that we gave the world much. Put aside the number 0 that we gave, which without it we would not be able to do anything such as reaching the moon, right? The most simplistic of mathematical equations that we take for granted today was actually given to us by the Muslim Indo-Pak community. At the same time, it was an empire to be reckoned with. They had palaces, they had culture, and they were developing. But we're all talking, before British colonialism came along and stole the wealth and left them in a state of poverty and depicted them as something of a third world. But it is a society that was proud and remains to be proud today, but a different type of pride. It was a society that was proud of itself, of its achievements, but at the same time there was a hint of arrogance. As with any other super nation that existed in the past and exists today. But it was in embracing Islam that that region of the world changed and became soft in the heart towards those people who do not have, towards those people who are in need. And concepts and notions such as ghira, or someone who has lack of it, is kind of looked down upon, and we call them baghirat, the same way that we would call them. And this word, which may be simple in notion, if anybody in this community was called that by another, I am sure we would take great levels of offense. And we would have to see something done in order to correct that. Because nobody wants to be insulted in that lowly manner, to be called selfish, to be called without shame, without dignity, without any kind of moral or morality. And this is the religion of Islam. It is a religion that came to reform everyone and say that our standard of success is not what we have. It is what we have given away that determines our standard in society. The first lady in Islam, Khadija alayhi salam. See, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa had more than one wife. Yes? Now, we could take a Western anti-Islam rhetoric and say, oh, he was a womanizer, or we can look at the reality of the situation, and that the majority of the wives of Rasulullah were women that nobody wanted to marry. They were either widows, they were either orphans, or wherever they may have been, elderly in age, but there was no one to look after them. In that day and age, there was no welfare system. Which now brings us to the subject, and I don't want to, ponder on this for too long because we have allocated a night for this discussion, but the subject of polygamy, marrying more than one wife. You see, we live in a society that says it's okay to have numerous relationships, but when somebody wants to take care of more than one person, that all of a sudden becomes a sin. Right? Marriage in Islam is not just about being married. Marriage is about taking somebody into your care. Somebody who now, under the divine law, you are the one that is supposed to spend on their food, ensure that they have shelter, a comfortable home, and a respectable name. That is what marriage is about. So when somebody wants to give dignity, hope, opportunity to someone who has less, doesn't always mean about marrying your equals. Sometimes it's supposed to marry those people who nobody else wants to marry. And that is exactly what Rasulullah did. He married those individuals who were kind of, put aside in the community to show us, the people, that we should never think too highly of ourselves, that when we see another fellow human being who is in distress, and that marriage is an opportunity to protect and safeguard the izzat of that individual, then we should do so. But of all these wives of Rasulullah, there is one woman who was given a title, a matter of respect, a love in the heart of the believing men and women that no other wife of Rasulullah, regardless of her status prior to marrying Rasulullah or after marrying Rasulullah, or whatever her father may have or may have not been, there is no woman that is loved more in Islam than Khadija. And she did not attain that love freely. She paid the ultimate price, her life. The entire Muslim nation was an orphan. They were in need of parents. It was a religion that was just born. It was still in the cradle. And it needed two parents, not just one. Islam is not about a one-sided relationship. Again, it's about people given for people. The wealthiest woman in her time. She could have squandered that money on palaces, on homes, on, you may think you may have a nice car, but believe me, there is nothing more beautiful than an Arabian horse. You look at horses, and you look at the Arabian horse, it's just magnificently beautiful. And they are very expensive. And Khadija alayhi salamullah could have owned an entire barnyard full of them. But she didn't. She used to sleep on silk, while other women just dreamed about this thing called silk that came from thousands of miles away in a place called China. But the day that she saw that this new religion is born, and her husband, who was the seal of prophets, was struggling day and night to show compassion to this group of people who were once brothers and sisters, parents and children, friends and neighbors, all of a sudden they were ostracized. And their community no longer wanted to know them because they believed in a different God. They all of a sudden became the other, and the narrative and the discourse and the attitude towards them changed completely, 180 degrees. So she came to her husband and she said, I'm not speaking to you as a wife to a husband, nor am I speaking to you as a merchant to someone who she may trade with, but I'm speaking to you as a Muslim woman who sees other Muslims in dire need of support, And I saw, O Rasulullah, the people turn their back towards you. And I saw that your finances are not in the best of state. So here is all that Khadija possesses. It is at your disposal, Ya Muhammad, for you and your God to do as you see fit, so that this new Muslim nation may be able to rise with dignity and with morality. And Rasulullah in that honor said, had it not been for the wealth of Khadija and the sword of Ali, Islam would have had no leg to stand upon. So in her honor, the largest of the salawat. The Quran al-Kareem begins by saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah is reminding Rasulullah. It's a very, very beautiful chapter in the Quran. After Abu Talib alayhi salam, Allah had passed away. And after Khadija alayhi salam, Allah passed away, the people of Arabia began to say, the Holy Prophet is now without anyone. And his Lord has forgotten about him. And he has become an easy target for us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds. He says, by dawn and the sun when it rises, and by night and when it overpowers with darkness. Your Lord has not abandoned you. And neither has he forgotten about you. Remember, there was a time when you was an orphan, so I took care of you, meaning I gave you Abu Talib. And you were poor, so I made you rich with the wealth of Khadija. And you were weak and surrounded by enemies, so I gave you Ali. So here is what I want in return from you, Ya Rasulullah, for those favors. Never upset an orphan, because you were an orphan and I did not leave you to be upset. And when someone comes and asks for help, do not keep your hand away from them. Give and help. That is how you thank Khadija. But if you want to thank Ali, فَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Speak about the ni'mah of Allah, that is wilayat Ali. The idea here is that the religion of Islam wasn't a religion about raising dictatorships or ISIS or Taliban or Al-Qaeda or any other such name. It was about taking people who had and introducing them to the have-nots and saying that the salvation of the have-nots in this world is in your hand, but your salvation in the hereafter is in their hands. Because when their hands rise in the middle of the night, they can either pray for your success and forgiveness, or they can curse and die. That is why Allah emphasized, do not break the heart of those who have put their hand out to you. Because those hands, when they rise in the middle of the night, their dua is mustajab. They can either say, oh Allah, have mercy on those people, though we may not know their name. Believe me, when you give tonight to these orphans, they will not know your name. And that is the most beautiful way to give in the religion of Islam. When you give and you don't want your name to be mentioned. That is the most beautiful way to give in the religion of Islam. That is exactly how Ali ibn Abi Talib used to give. In the middle of the night, he waits for darkness to set. And not only is he using the cover of darkness to give charity, he used to cover his face and wrap it around twice so that nobody could even make out the size of his head. He would wrap extra cloth on his face. And he would carry the sacks of grain on his back, of rice on his back. And he would go through the streets of Kufa, a nation that turned its back on its Imam. And he would leave the food at the dark hour at the doorstep of the people, and he would knock, and he would say, this is from those who want to give in secret. They don't want their names to be known. So pray that Allah may forgive them. Ali is asking the people whose dua is mustajab that they may pray for Allah, that Ali has a better position in the Akhirah. And he's already been guaranteed Jannah, but it is a lesson for us. Don't think that you are forever going to be so great in your life that you will not need the dua of an orphan. An individual came to Imam Hassan alayhi salam. He said, Yabna Rasulullah, or the son of Rasulullah, tell us, what is the distance between the earth and the heavens? The Imam said, the distance between the earth and the heavens is measured in two different ways. You know, you could measure in kilometers if you're from Canada, or you could measure in miles if you're from America. But it's the same measurements. The Imam said you can measure that distance in two different ways. The distance of the teardrop from the eye to the bottom of the cheek of an orphan. And the distance between the dua of an individual who is oppressed in the middle of the night. The moment that dua is spoken, wait for it to be answered, then you know the distance between heaven and earth. Because that dua travels very quickly. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Ajibtu, I am astonished by an individual who sees oppressed people around them and yet they can sleep at night without helping them. Do they not know that those lips are certainly in the court of Allah? The oppressed are those individuals who the moment they complain to Allah, because nobody else heard them, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears them. And nobody else gave them, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them. So it is for us to remember that their hands, our hereafter is in their hands. But their dunya is in our hands. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, so that we can trial you and see who is the better amongst you. There are people who Allah gave. Don't think, don't ever think that when you give it to the poor, you're doing them any favors, because we were poor and Allah gave us. Who's giving us? It wasn't our parents, it was Allah who gave us. So we were poor and Allah gave us. Now, you can always go two ways in life. You can either be more grateful or you can be more arrogant. As for the one who is more grateful, Allah will increase them. As for the one who is more arrogant, Allah will also increase them, but in halal. No. So there are those people who, when you give them, they become more arrogant and their wealth becomes, the epicenter of their life and their conversations, and when they go to mosque, they expect everyone to rise up for them because I'm Mr. Money with Mayweather. That ego is still there, that nafs is still there. But there are people who the more you give them, the more they give away. Ja'far al-Tayyar alayhi salam, the brother of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the son of Abu Talib in their Masala. He used to be one of the most successful merchants in Arabia. Yet whatever money he had in the day, he would lose at night. So people came to him, they said, there is a very thin line between generosity and stupidity. Now that we should ever speak in such terms about the children of Allah. But these are people who didn't know. They said, Jafar Tayyar, there is a very thin line. The moment someone says give, you just give away. He says, you see, I have a sunnah with Allah, and Allah has a sunnah with me. I have a habit with God, and God has a habit with me. And I am fearful that if I change my habit with the people, Allah will change His habit with me. They said, and what are these habits? He said, my habit is that when people ask, I give, no questions asked. And God's habit is when I ask Him, He gives, no questions asked. So I am fearful that if I stop giving the people, Allah will stop giving me. So now the idea here is that we have to understand, as individuals, giving away, although some people may think it's a loss, you're really not losing anything. When you give away, you haven't lost anything. You gained something. Dua iftitah, which inshallah we'll also be looking at. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, O Allah. And when you give away, you increase in nothing except in generosity and praiseworthiness. You become more and more praiseworthy the more you give. So you actually, it's called giving away, but you're not. Think of it that you are buying your izzah. Think of it that you are buying your dignity. Think of it that you are buying your morality, that you are buying your humanity whenever you are giving to orphans or to widows. And when you give them generously, and when I say generously, I don't mean today, and it's a beautiful thing that we are going to try and raise this 14,000, and inshallah that we will. My suggestion is, no matter what we raise today, whether we fall short or whether we achieve and excel that number, my suggestion is when I say give generously, make it a habit. You see, the unfortunate thing is the Quran has prescribed beautiful things for us which we made no use of and others are making use of today, like gift aid and other charities. And they're making, they're making their name well known while our name is still being destroyed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran Kareem, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And there are those individuals who before their paycheck reaches them, they have already allocated some portion of it in the way of Allah. What does that mean? That's a direct debit. That I've made an agreement with my bank. Listen, every month, whether my paycheck comes in or not from my credit, I want you to give $10 every single month to this charity. There are people who give before they receive. Allah says that they are the successful ones. Those who allocate a portion of their livelihood before it is received, they make the niyyah that they will give that in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I suggest, and I simply say this and inshallah we'll conclude with this, is that if you get into the habit of giving just $10 a month to this charity or to any other orphanage, just $10 a month. Because today we are all here, yes? And let's say, for example, this orphanage wants to now open a school and pay teachers' wages and whatever it may be. Because remember, we are not just about keep giving these orphans money and letting them be orphans. No, Islam is a religion that is about giving them the tools that they can then help other orphans in the future. That they can ensure there are no more orphans in the future. That they can become leaders in the world and doctors and scientists, pioneers who can change the face of this world to a better one that it is today. So we must empower them, and for that we need vast projects. And nobody's going to help us. So we have to be the grassroots movement. But if we are all here today, and we all say, you know what, no problem, here's $100, here's $1,000 to down feeding, generous. We go back to this orphanage, we're like, alhamdulillah, this month of Ramadan we've got 14,000, right, let's get a project plan together. This project plan is going to cost us X amount of money. And then we realize that we can only start half the project and we have to wait till next month of Ramadan because we know majority of us will not go to mosque except in either Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, or the month of Muharram. So now where do I find these generous mu'mineen and mu'minat? However, even if I have half of this room that is giving $10 a month, I know in my budget, when I go to a project manager, I say, look, we have a steady income. Every month, we have 100 people giving $10 every single month. That's a steady cash flow. So what do you think we can do with this? Now we can plan project in different stages. We say, well, we know we've got the money coming in, alhamdulillah. So I think what we should first do is use the first initial 1,000. For the first 3 months, every month we use that 1,000 to buy material. And then the next 3 months, we can go and start building. And then the next 3 months, we can start marketing and bringing teachers in to start helping. Then we can continue to go. So we have a steady income, steady cash flow. So I ask you today to make a pledge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be of those who before their paycheck comes in, they have allocated a fund or a portion of it to the widows and to the orphans. We talk a lot about orphans, but we don't speak enough about widows. You know, your heart would break for the situation that some of our sisters are going through. I don't want to go through that topic because of the difference in the age gap that is here today, but inshallah in a more adult environment we'll speak about those kind of problems, because we don't want to expose anyone to any premature issues. Having said that, I want to conclude with these 2 points. Allah did not give Rasulullah Fatima from any other except Khadija. And Rasulullah said, if you want your children not to be orphans, or if you want them to be looked after in their orphanage, you look after the orphans of others. In looking after the orphans, Amir al-Mu'mineen said Rasulullah spoke so much about the orphans that we became mindful that he may even say we should put them in our will. He looked after the orphans so much. And Khadija alayhi salam looked after the orphans so much that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to them by saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar. Sallallahu alayhi wa We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He may accept this endeavor of yours. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ensures that our children, no matter what stage of life they go through, be it in high school, be it in college, be it in university, or whatever school, or different environments that they are in, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never change their hearts except for good. That they still have this attitude of caring and wanting to help their fellow human beings around the world, those who do not have. I pray that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when they become successful doctors and pioneers and they are earning those nice paychecks coming through, that they will remember to give a portion of that to the orphans so that they can also have that opportunity to become doctors and scientists somewhere else. Be safe in our camps. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He looks kindly to this congregation of orphans who are missing the presence of their father, Al-Hujjat ibn Hassan, Ajjalullah ta'ala farajah sharif. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives her, as we said, that the orphan have their dua. May Allah give this group of orphans their dua. Allah hasten the reappearance of Al-Hujjat ibn Hassan. Make us of those who work tirelessly and endlessly day and night in order to be at His side and in order to help Him establish a fair and just system, one which will give peace and prosperity to every individual without discrimination of gender, faith, or any other orientation. Ilahi al-Haqqi, Ameen. Before we conclude, let us remember the marhumeen of the mu'mineen and the mu'minat, especially those who are, the sponsors of tonight's iftar, the Surah al-Mubarakat al-Fatiha. Before it, the Surah al-Muhammadin.